Learn how to create, sustain, and scale up your print-on-demand business with the latest tips, guides, and strategies to help you start selling and making money today. Welcome to the Sales on Demand Show. And here's your host, Adam Schneider.
Hello once again, everybody. Welcome back to the Sales on Demand Show. I'm your host, Adam Schneider. I'm delighted to be on episode 70, and today we are going to be talking about capitalism always wins. So this is going to be the beginning of some educational episodes that I plan to do through the summer. I'll be honest, this is something I've wanted to talk about for a while. I mean, I can only talk about how to sell coffee mugs on Etsy, so many times before I need to talk about some other things to help you really learn what is the marketplace? How do you think about this stuff? And I think this topic is just as important for you to absorb as anything. This is more of a high-level 10,000, 40,000 foot overview of how does selling and how does the marketplace actually work. And I think it's very important for sellers to understand what selling is and what it isn't, because I hear people all the time, they just don't get how, selling online works. It's not like a job. It is just the exact opposite of a job. There's no guaranteed results in any of this, but there is huge potential, much more than a job. So, getting started. Life is good for me. I'm moving a little bit slower these days. It's summertime and it's hot, and I'll just be honest, I'm not in a rush really to do anything. I've got a bunch of things on the horizon here. I've just about finished my training course, and I'm going to be releasing it probably closer to the end of summer. And the reason that I'm not releasing it right away here is, number one, I'm looking for people to promote it. I think one of the people that I was hoping that would promote it isn't able to do it this year, and I was like, oh crap, I should probably get in touch with a few more people just to see if they, people that actually have like big audiences, to see if they will promote this program. And of course, if you're interested in promoting it, you actually get a 50% commission if somebody buys the course from you. So literally, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to teach it. You just have to promote it. You bring in the customers, you get half the profit. It's a great system. It's called affiliate marketing. Maybe I'll talk about that someday too. But I am trying to add as much value to this as possible and keep it as dirt cheap as I can. I mean, there is no way. It's my first course, so I'm not going to be charging a lot, and I'm going to be including literally everything I know. I mean, I can't think of anything that I know that's not going in here. All of the secrets, everything that I am hesitant to talk about on the podcast, videos, actual one-on-one coaching, which will be an upgrade to the program. I've had a lot of requests for that, by the way. People who, run into a technical problem and they're like, hey, can somebody help me with this? Just one-on-one, do a screen share thing. I've actually had people directly ask me, and I'm like, I can't. I don't have time right now. And I wouldn't, I don't have anything set up for that, but I will be setting up a bonus program that you can buy. It's very inexpensive. You can buy one-on-one time from me, and I will help guide you through whatever problem, whatever technical issue you're facing. If you can't get it sorted out, from the other videos and from the Facebook page that I will be building. So that's all coming, and it's going to be, I think it's pretty exciting, and I'm excited to do it. So keep an eye out for that. So what should you be working on right now? Well, here's a couple things to keep working on. Keep plugging on those evergreen niches. Birthdays, retirements, anniversaries, weddings. Masks are big right now. I wasn't sure how long this mask thing was gonna last, so I didn't actually launch any masks, but I'm gonna be launching some masks today. Gear Bubble has really tightened up their mask delivery. I think there are a bunch of other print-on-demand suppliers that are making masks. I don't think there's really too much difference. They're probably all using the same kind of format. It's just that some of them are shipping, like I think Gear Bubbles, they ship from the United Kingdom, so they managed to find someone out there to print masks in the United Kingdom. And there's a lot of people that are just making their own masks, although that sounds like a lot of work. So I will not be doing that. More on that, actually, later on in this episode. So, start looking for FBA items because, just being real with you guys, FBA is going to be huge this year because shipping is taking a long time, and that's not going to change before Christmas time. I hate to tell you, but I don't see any improvement in the amount of time it takes for an item to get from a print-on-demand supplier. I don't see that improving by Christmas time, so FBA is going to become even more important, and you need to start getting your items sent to Amazon like right away. It takes longer to check things in these days. This is an unprecedented year. Like, nothing is normal this year, so everything is going to take longer. But I think there's going to be much better sales this year. I mean, there already has been, and I see that continuing. So, take advantage of it. I mean, it's a little bit harder, but it's definitely profitable. Okay, so today's topic: capitalism always wins. So I don't know. I've been on Facebook and talking with people about various topics, and I've joined a quasi-political group. This is a group that's promoting the Libertarian Party. Did you know that we actually have a female running for president in the United States? And I say we, it's not obviously me, but I'm still standing behind this person. Her name is Jo Jorgensen, and she is running on a liberty platform. So she believes that people should be allowed to do things that they want to do as long as it doesn't hurt other people. And being a business owner and an entrepreneur, this is kind of up my alley because I do not want tariffs. I don't want, taxes on everything. I don't need regulation getting in the way of my business. And, no other party is even talking about this. Trump is trying to fight against the Democrats, and the Democrats are just, they're trying to make everything so woke that, it just hurts everybody. It kills us inside. We're so woke that we can't even open our mouths without getting canceled. So I just don't see any future for those two political parties. So the problem is that in an environment where there's, no other choice, you just have to choose the worst of, the best of two bad options, I guess. But there is a third option, and it's the Libertarian Party. So, anyway, one of the quirky things about the Libertarian Party is that it sometimes attracts people who are socialist. And they're collectivist, anarchist. I mean, it's just a strange mix. And, they don't always get along, but there's lots of conversation. So I did have a conversation with some people who believe in socialism or collectivism of some, you could call it Marxism, some people call it communism. I mean, the lines between these ideologies are not really distinct, so I'm not trying to pool them together, but in some ways they do overlap, because they all sort of promote some kind of collectivism. They do not like private property, and they are not very huge fans of individual rights and the right to own property. So there's a couple things about socialism that you should know. First of all, socialists, they hate profit. Profit is seen as stealing from the worker. So we'll definitely talk about why that's not true. And they hate employment relationships where, you go and you work for a boss. They see that as being basically an exploitation. And their point of view is that the boss has all of the power and the worker has none of the power. And one person, no, not one person, many people, they don't like this work or starve choice. They see that as being the only two choices they have. You either work for somebody or you starve to death, which we'll talk about that. And the last thing that socialists kind of want is they want communal ownership of business. And unfortunately, they can't really explain how that would work, but I can tell you that there are some communally owned operations, such as, here in Alberta, we have Hutterites, and Hutterite colonies actually are almost like a collectivist commune. They call them a colony, but really a commune would fit just as well, and they are completely voluntary. People come and go from Hutterite communes, and they're kind of religious, but not really. It's interesting. So I don't know if we'll get to talk about Hutterites today, but it's definitely one of those curious things. I could probably talk about that for a while. So had a conversation with some socialists, and I'll just relate to you how it went. Now, why am I doing this on the show? Like, what does it relate to business? Well, I get a lot of comments from people. I see this a lot, especially from new sellers. There are a lot of people out there who they start selling and they're asking questions. And here are some of the questions that they're asking. They're like, well, how many hours do I have to work in order to make X dollars? Or how many listings do I have to create in order to make X dollars? How many listings do I need to make my first sale? And then they get frustrated. They're like, I've made 300 listings and I haven't made a single sale yet. This system sucks. And this is precisely the mentality that I am educating you against, because this is a mentality that says, I have put in this much effort, I should see this much results. Right? We all understand if we go work for a job, we put in X number of hours, we expect a paycheck that reflects that. Many people, they calculate their time down to like the minute, especially if you work for a union. And I've worked for a few unions. Like, the collective agreement tells you precisely how much money you're making, and it has it in like 6-minute intervals, which is, that's crazy. That's like way too specific. Whatever. That's how they do it. So people bring that mentality into business, and then they're frustrated when it doesn't work that way. And then I tell them, I work like 3 hours a week, and I make plenty of money. And I'm making money based on things that I created like 3 years ago. So I don't know. That's what I'm doing. And they're like, well, how do I get there? It's like, all right, let me tell you. You got to create value. So anyways, I got 3 statements here that I hear from socialists, and I'm going to explain why these things are wrong and what the truth is behind it. So before I start, let me say, socialists are not stupid people, okay? I don't want to make you guys think that these are like people with, empty skulls walking around. That's just not true. Literally every human being could be a socialist if you learn or hear certain things, or you hang out with certain people. What you believe is less a function of what you actually know and more a function of who you hang around with, okay? Our beliefs, our personalities are far more emotional than we would dare to admit. And just because you went to university, you went to college, doesn't mean that your education taught you any facts, and many times it means you probably didn't learn any facts, depending on what you took. And just because you heard somebody say something and it sounded smart, doesn't mean it is smart. All right? So I'm going to explain why socialists, they may not be stupid and they're not uneducated, but they are wrong. There are things that are true and there are things that are false. So here's one of the statements, okay? So I hear this a lot. So the choice that I have to either work or starve is terrible. We have enough resources to go around to everybody. So this is the collectivist idea. The Soviet Union, started with this. Karl Marx, he thought the worker was being taken advantage of because the capitalist takes the labor of the worker and mixes it with capital, and he takes the profit for himself, but he does none of the work, right? So let me start with the choice to either work or starve. Only somebody who just doesn't understand how the world works would complain that you have to work or starve, because that is physical reality. If a farmer doesn't plant seed, nothing grows. If the rancher doesn't breed the cow to the bull, then no new babies are born. If the welder doesn't take the welding stick and weld two pieces of metal together, nothing is created. It's true. If you don't work, you don't eat. This actually comes from my favorite book in the entire world, the Bible, where God says if a man doesn't work, he will not eat. Now, this doesn't preclude people giving away their labor for free or donating, extra money that they have to take care of people who, for whatever reason they can't work, or they're taking care of somebody and there's no profit in taking care of somebody. I mean, we make decisions all the time to give away things that we've earned, and that is our choice. So one of my neighbors just came to the door early this morning, and she knew I was raising money for the food bank a couple weeks ago, and she's like, I wanted to give you some money for the food bank, and she just handed me an envelope with money in it, and I'm like, oh, well, thank you. I mean, she's a sweet lady. My God, I've got some great neighbors. I feel sorry for you if you don't have good neighbors like me. You should move. No, I'm kidding. But she is giving away her extra value because she knows that other people need it. And that is only possible when you have money that you don't need to survive on, right? If you only have enough to survive on, then you'll never be able to give anything away. And this comes down to very few people in our society today are willing to wait for good things. So it's called time preference, and very few people understand it. People want things now. The average starter home, the very first house that people own, has gone from 800 square feet to like 1,600 square feet. Because people don't want their first home to be really small. So they're looking to pay more. And then they go into more debt, and that debt, bogs you down over time. It's no wonder people are like $200 away from basically being bankrupt, is because we're just not willing anymore to wait for good things and to save extra money, to do with less now and to save that money down the road and use it later, or to use that extra money to make more money. So this is called capitalism, okay? When a person works and they save their money, they can then take that money and invest it or do something with it that will earn them more money down the road. So anyway, getting back to this statement of I have to work or starve. First of all, you don't. There is more than two choices, okay? You could actually go out into the forest and pick berries and mushrooms and stuff and survive, I don't know how well you're going to do, and probably lots of people have died trying this out, but it is possible for you to survive out in nature and just, create everything yourself. You could go out into the forest, and if you go deep enough, nobody will find you. They might find your body in 30 years, but, if you're smart enough and clever enough and strong enough, you could make yourself some kind of shelter, and you could just start hunting for food. You could survive on your own labor with the resources that come from nature. This is how our ancestors survived. And a lot of them died with this way. So I'm kind of appreciative that they did that and built what we have today. Now, the idea that we have enough resources to go around, that's true right this second. There is enough food right this second for everybody to eat, okay? But unless you only need to eat once in your life, I need to eat every day, or at least, I'll starve. So the way that we ensure that there will be enough future resources to go around is that we've set up a system that motivates people to create those resources, okay? So you could take away, everything that billionaires own. You could take away the land from the farmer, and you could take away all of the wealth from the people who have it and give it to the workers, okay? And by this time next year, half of those workers would literally be dead from starvation because they don't know how to use those resources to make more, right? So capitalism is not just about the present needs of people. It's also about the future. And this is where entrepreneurs actually shine. They are vital in this system because entrepreneurs, they're not just looking at the present needs of people. They're looking at the future, and they're trying to build value that will last for a long time. And I'm sorry, but not everybody can do that. Not everybody knows how to do that. And not everybody is motivated to do that. Okay, so statement number 2 is this idea that value comes from labor, okay? So I hear this a lot, is that workers are not being paid the full value of their labor. So that's why we need to take profit away from the people making profit. It's like, if you work at a pencil factory and you're being paid 10 cents to put the eraser on the end of the pencil, and then your boss is selling your labor for 15 cents. You're like, well, why don't I get that 15 cents? I was the one who put the eraser on the pencil because that's really difficult to do. This is hard to understand, but it is absolutely 100% true. Value does not come from labor, okay? The value of a pencil has nothing to do with the people who created the pencil. The person who determines the value of the pencil is the person who buys the pencil. At the very end, the consumer. Okay? The consumer is the person who determines the value. And I'll tell you exactly how I know this. Okay? Because if I create products, let's say that I print a bunch of coffee mugs and I put something on it. I put a trending phrase from 3 years ago on that coffee mug. I send it to Amazon, and I'm like, all right, it cost me $5 each to print these coffee mugs, send them to Amazon, and I'm hoping to sell them for $20 each. Well, I've already paid for those coffee mugs, right? And my asking price is $20, but nobody's going to buy them, right? There's no value. They're actually not worth anything. It's kind of like a car manufacturer that makes, let's imagine that Honda suddenly decided to make 3-wheeled cars. Now, we actually do have 3-wheeled cars, but they used to have 3-wheeled cars where the third wheel was on the front. Now they make them on the back, which is way better because it's not as unbalanced. But they used to have these 3-wheeled cars where the third wheel was on the front. And it was really unbalanced. Like you couldn't turn or anything. Like it would tip over all the time. So let's say that Honda started making 3-wheeled cars with the third wheel on the front. Well, nobody would buy that because it's stupid. Or, a real life example is Honda making that, I don't know if it's the Element or some like really ugly looking SUV that Honda made, and nobody wanted it. So Honda spends a lot of money. They have engineers that create that product, and they buy all the machines to build it and hire the workers to make it, and they put it out in the marketplace. Nobody buys it. Where does the value come from? It's not from the labor, because there was no value in the end product. Nobody wanted it. And this is why entrepreneurs are absolutely vital, because entrepreneurs are the ones who go out there and say, what do people want? And then they collect what they think are the important parts of the product, and they bring all these parts together, and they take the risk, right? So I'm the one that goes out and spends $5 printing these coffee mugs and sending them to Amazon. Now, I cheated because I already know that these are sellers. And that's why print on demand literally is one of the best ways to do this, because you don't actually have to take the risk of creating the product first, which is lovely. But, there's still some risk involved in the time it takes to do it, right? So I'm taking the time, and, this is really what people complain about. They're like, I spent all this time, creating these listings, and I put them out there, and nobody wanted them. Well, how come? All this time should be worth something. Well, it's not. I'm sorry to tell you, but your time isn't worth anything. Okay? When you're a business person, your time, the only thing that's worth anything is the value that you create with your time. So you could do what I sometimes do and spend all of your time on Facebook and make no money, right? Or you could sit there. Sorry, I do make money. So I spend all my time on Facebook. I'm still making money. Or you could sit there for 8 hours a day and create designs, and somehow, if you're not a listener to the show, you don't know how to research, so you're just literally just throwing words on a page with no idea whether they're going to sell or not, and then complain because nobody buys your product. Well, which one of us is adding more value? Is it me or is it you? Well, I'm making the money, so I'm the one that's creating the value. Now, that could change. Maybe you'll find, because you're persistent, you're going to find phrases that sell, and you're going to outsell me because you're consistent with your time. Well, good for you, and you should. You should make more money if you're more consistent and if you create better products. So that's my smash down of the statement that value comes from labor. And I debated with a couple of socialist fellows, and one of them actually said, he's like, man, you've given me some things to think about, because I was using all of these examples. And, it is child's play to explain this in ways that that people will understand. Just so easy to see how it works in real life. So the third thing that I was talking about is this idea that profits should go to the worker, and that the workers should be in charge of the business. So I would we all know that this is bad, but some people just, I don't know. Imagine a meeting, okay? So I don't know if all of my listeners have ever been part of Zoom meetings. I was never part of Zoom meetings until the pandemic happened. But I used to, I've been to a lot of meetings in my life, in-person ones, and I can tell you that the more people in a meeting, the less actual productive work gets done. Especially if there is no leader and if there's no agenda, right? So just imagine, okay, a company, and the company's like, all right, we're abolishing our management, and all of the decisions will be made by the workers on the ground. So you've got a car company, and all of the people who are welding the cars together, now they have to go to meetings to decide what kind of car are we going to build. Well, do you think that a welder knows what the market wants for cars. I mean, what does a welder know about marketing, right? And by the way, what does a marketer know about welding? So, I mean, this idea that the workers should be in charge of the business, it just ignores the fact that workers don't want to be in charge of the business, and there's a reason that workers are working and managers are managing and entrepreneurs are entrepreneuring. Okay? People are doing what they're good at. And the worker, he doesn't want to have to worry about the future. He just wants to come, weld some stuff together, and get paid. And welders make good money, so he wants to get paid well. I don't want to be a welder, and I'm happy to pay a welder. I don't, thankfully, have to weld any of my coffee mugs together. Yet. I don't know if that's ever gonna be a thing. But, if I ever need a welder, I'll be sure to hire somebody, because I don't want to do it. And then, getting things done and planning for the future, you just can't do that if you don't have somebody in charge. And that person has to not only be accountable for the profit, but also the losses. So what if the company loses money? And this happens a lot. Are the workers going to pay? Do they want to pay? I mean, this idea that companies are just making endless profits and never, losing money, that's just not true. A lot of companies, especially new ones and some of these like tech companies, they are, they'll go through 3 or 4 years of losing money before they make a profit. And, startups and stuff like that. And even if they do make a profit, that doesn't last forever. This notion that there's always profits in business is just not true. It's not true. So the worker wants to work and he just wants to make his paycheck. The entrepreneur is willing to take a risk, and he can see what the marketplace is doing, and he's following the consumer. And ultimately everybody is working for each other, and nobody's really in charge. Because if the entrepreneur doesn't make what the market wants, he doesn't make any profit. Okay? So he's a slave to the market. I can't just make any coffee mug I want. I mean, I gotta make what the market wants, right? And if the market wants something really stupid, I don't care. I'll make whatever the market wants, right? So I'm not in charge of that. Now, I can try and promote things that I think they should buy, but if people don't want to buy them, they're not going to buy them, and I can't force them. So, I mean, just imagine, Henry Ford's dead now, I guess. Okay, Bill Gates, we use him as an example because I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. Imagine that he's like, well, everybody who owns a Mac, we're going to force you to buy Windows. I mean, that would go over like a lead balloon, right? So, I mean, there's all kinds of competition here, and everybody's competing. So, we work together, and those who compete well make the money, and those who don't, well, they lose money. So, the last thing I wanted to talk about is some folks I met on a Facebook page that I just randomly joined, because I wanted some information on Sublimation Inc. So this is a company called Cosmos, and they sell Sublimation Inc. And whatever, Sublimation Inc. There's plenty of companies out there that sell this, but I was just astonished. Okay, so first of all, it's a black-owned company, owned by a black guy. Which, alright, there's lots of companies owned by black guys. But he started a Facebook page, and I noticed a couple of really very interesting things about this that really got me optimistic for the future of the country and the world in general. Because, if you do nothing but read the news these days, you would think that there's nobody out there that wants to start a business, that everybody's a socialist, that the only thing that people want to do is tear down statues and light buildings on fire and smash windows and just beat the crap out of each other. But that's not true, okay? There's a highly visible and savagely undisciplined minority of people who are out there doing those things, right? And I don't care what political class they're from, they are a minority. So the people I meet on this Facebook page, huge, pretty much all of them are black, and they're all highly motivated. They're entrepreneurs. They're seeking out customers and finding tons of them. So they're selling sublimated products like masks, t-shirts, vinyl sublimation. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of different ways to print onto t-shirts and stuff like that, and coffee mugs. But they're entrepreneurs. So what I noticed about this Facebook group is that people are like working together and nobody cares. Like there was me, this white guy, commenting, and one guy, well, what somebody asked, and they said, is anybody making money sublimating coffee mugs? And I said, yeah, I'm making tons of money. And right away, he sends me a friend request. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, sure. So I accepted it. And all he cares about is finding new customers, finding good ideas, and making money. And I'm like, yeah, I need more people like this in my life. So what's interesting is that these black entrepreneurs are using cultural topics to make money. So the Black Lives Matter thing, they're actually using the symbology from that, and they're printing like face masks and t-shirts and hoodies and all that kind of stuff, and they're selling that for money, for profit. And none of them are embarrassed about this in the slightest. And they should not be embarrassed about it. Now, for me, I do not use Black Lives Matter anything. I'm not interested in making money off of that cultural topic. It's just, I don't feel like it's really my thing to use, right? So I'll leave that for black entrepreneurs. You want to make money off of your cultural topic? I encourage you to do that. I think you'll make tons of money, and you should. And you'll benefit your family more by making money off of this cultural topic than you will if reparations actually becomes a thing, right? So, this talk about reparations, like paying black people to, compensate them for the injustices of slavery, that's not going to save anybody's future, right? The thing that's going to save your future is starting a business and working and making money, because that's sustainable. I mean, if they sent you a check for $10,000, that would be great for the rest of the year, right? But what are you going to do next year? So the solution to this is not to just give money away, but it's to build, capitalist businesses. And you know what? Use the culture. I encourage you to use the culture to make money. That's why I say capitalism always wins. So, ultimately entrepreneurs can make money from almost anything, including socialism, okay? And this is what I'll leave you with. Okay, I'm going to leave you with this. This is the takeaway. Inside the body of every socialist beats the heart of a capitalist. So I'm gonna prove that to you right now. Okay, so Colin Kaepernick, the foosball player. If you don't get that reference, then you need to watch some more Adam Sandler movies. But Colin Kaepernick, a lot of people hate this guy. I'm going to compliment him. He is an exceptionally good marketer. He understands what the culture is doing, and he is making money for himself using his whatever topic, right? His cultural topic. He's thinking about number one, and he is good at it. So I'm complimenting this guy. Probably not the compliment that people expect, but it's still a compliment, right? So he's a very good marketer. And he just signed a deal with Disney Plus to make some kind of show. And he's going to make $60 million off of this deal. So, yeah, he's a capitalist. But, of course, his brand is that, everything in America is terrible and the system is corrupt and bankrupt. I'm like, okay, whatever. Listen, say whatever you want, but you're a capitalist, okay? You're not a socialist, because you agree that voluntary exchanges plus money plus labor and machines equals profit. And I guarantee you Colin is not going to give away that $60 million he's making. So here's another one. Bernie McSanders. Good old Bernie. Oh my gosh, this one's hilarious because Bernie is a politician. I mean, he's not even a sports guy. I don't think Bernie could throw a ball across the room. Never mind, throw a football. But he's been in politics forever. And he wrote a book. And I can't even remember what the book was called. But he is now a millionaire. And a lot of the money he made came from selling this book. And somebody... Okay, by the way, if you don't know who Bernie Sanders is literally a socialist, okay? He was running in politics as a democratic socialist. So, he wants, much higher taxes on everything. He wants, all kinds of crazy, expensive political things. But he wrote a book, and the book was popular with socialists. And he made $500,000. And somebody says, Bernie Sanders, aren't you going to give away? Don't you think it's really strange that you made a bunch of money selling a book? And here was his response. He said, well, you could write a best-selling book too and make a lot of money. Okay, explain to me what is not capitalist about that. I could write a best-selling book and make a lot of money too, which would make me a writer and a capitalist. So I'm telling you, inside the body of every socialist beats the heart of a capitalist. Capitalism always wins. So the last example I'll give is I've got a friend, and this is a person that is very special to me. I met this person volunteering. Her husband is a friend of mine too, and she is what I would call I don't know if she's socialist, but she's definitely, she straight up said one day, she's like, capitalism sucks. So, I didn't start a conversation about it because I just didn't have time, nor was I inclined to discuss it at that moment, but I know that this girl, she considers herself more of a socialist. So one day she was on Facebook and she's like, I wrote a zine. And if you want a free copy of it, send me some money to ship it to you. And I'll send you a copy of my zine. So if you don't know what zine is, it's kind of like a short for magazine, I think, but it's a special kind of, it's just a thing that people create and they put artwork in it. It's actually kind of cool. I've bought a few before, and every time I see somebody selling one, if I know them, I'll buy it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy this zine from you. So I gave her the money and I bought the zine. And I just could not help but just think, how ironic is this? This person who just straight up says, I hate capitalism, is practicing capitalism. Because really, what is it? It's voluntary exchanges plus, some kind of capital. Okay, so, if you got a printer at home, if you've got a computer and you're using that computer is capital, right? And in order for you to do a print-on-demand business, you need to have at least a computer. You need to have an internet connection. And you need the information that you're getting by listening to this podcast and that you'll get by buying the course that I'm going to sell. That information plus your capital, your computer, plus, a little bit of money to do some of the listing and some of the things. If you're going to pay Amazon $40 a month, that's capitalism. And you're going to make money off of that. That's all it is. Okay? And it turns out that everything that people hate about capitalism are the things that big government has added, like paper money and, big banks taking advantage of basically robbing people, and I'm not talking about your local bank. I'm talking about, these banks that, inflate the prices of housing. And anyway, so everybody inside their heart, they know that voluntary exchanges are good. So, capitalism always wins. All right, that's it, guys. Thank you for listening to episode 70. I will be back next week to talk about educating yourself and educating your kids. Should your kids go to college, or should your kids start a business? I have a teenager who's, planning to go to some kind of training someday and get a job, and I've been thinking about this a lot, so I'm going to be talking about it next week. We'll see you then. Cheers.